first story is titled, Update. Am I the a-hole for moving after winning full custody of my sons? Original story. My wife and I got a divorce last year. Our relationship failed after she was charged with felony, credit card fraud, and ended up pleading guilty to a lesser charge. She had been a stay-at-home mom to our 2 sons, 5 and 3, and had taken credit cards out in my mom's name to pay for God knows what. She shattered my trust. I work full-time and make a decent living, but nothing extravagant. I had no clue what my wife was doing, until cops showed at my door with a warrant and took my wife away in cuffs and took 2 laptops as evidence. When I got the full story, I filed for divorce immediately. Aside from being a criminal, she was a good mom. She tried to justify what she did by saying she was just doing what was best for our kids, which I felt was a total BS, given that she never mentioned wanting for anything. And any time she asked to spend on something, I almost always said yes. I hired a good lawyer and asked for full custody of my kids. My ex begged me not to do that, saying she needed her kids. But she was still looking at up to a year in jail, and nothing her lawyer said could sway the judge to grant her anything more than supervised visitation. She ended up doing 90 days in jail, paying some fines and restitution, but I've allowed her to see our sons almost every time she asks. The last year has been total hell, but we've made it work. A few months ago, I was offered a much more lucrative position a few states away. I talked with my lawyer about what it would mean if I moved and what the process was. He said that since I have full custody, I have to file a petition with the court to move. So, I told my wife what I wanted to do, and she exploded. She claimed I was stealing her kids from her, that she's made a lot of strides to get herself to a better place, and that she would fight me tooth and nail for her kids. Well, I filed the petition, got the go-ahead from the courts, and accepted the job. When the judge gave his ruling, my wife burst into tears and began sobbing. It was heartbreaking. I know in my head that I'm doing the right thing for my sons. They're young enough that a move like this won't be too traumatic, but I also feel like their lives have already been completely overturned, and I'm just adding more to that. As for my wife, she's a wreck. She's been begging me to reconsider the move, trying everything from guilt trips, manipulation, bargaining. It's like she's going through the stages of grief. But from my point of view, she did this to herself. She lied and broke the law. I have very little sympathy for her. I know at some point, she will probably try to file for partial custody, and I'm prepared for that. For now, I'm just trying to do what's best for me and my sons. Does that make me an a-hole? Now, for more info and comments before we read the update. This is tough. The divorce and getting full custody? Fully deserved. Not the a-hole on that account. Moving to another part of the country where she'll have no contact with them? I'm not so sold on this. I think that you're still in pain and resent her, and rightfully so. But I'm not sure this is the best you can do regarding your children's relationship with their mother. Does she have any possibility of getting a job? Of moving? Or is she a financial mess as well? And what are her living conditions like now? Have you gone to therapy? Let me be clear. She did what she did, and she's been held accountable for it. You've got a right to move from a legal perspective. But moving, when you know she can't do the same, will massively screw her relationship with your children, and it will only lead to more anger, resentment, and pain. Edit based on further comments from OP. Not the a-hole on all accounts. As has been pointed out, he's got a financial responsibility over his kids now, and his ex isn't paying child support. All I suggest is that the relationship between mother and kids still be allowed, as far as the law is involved/allowing, with FaceTime or whatever means are possible, because further isolation won't be healthy for the kids either, in my opinion. I don't know her full financial situation. I know she's working a couple part-time jobs and has a small 2-bedroom apartment. Whether or not she could move, I don't know. She's under probation, so she'd need to apply to move anyway. My new job pays over twice what my previous did. It's a huge opportunity for me to provide a better life for my sons. I don't want to sit around here and wait for my ex to get her stuff together. I understand, if you're moving, and to me it sounds like you've already made up your mind. I know it would be painful or not very easy, but you've got to make an effort for your kids to have their mother in their life. I don't mean any form of financial assistance. I mean, make sure they can FaceTime or talk on the phone whenever they can, as long as it doesn't interrupt their school schedule, obviously. You don't have to sit around until she gets her stuff together. Just try not to add obstacles. I know many petty parents who would make it impossible to schedule calls or whatever. Not saying you're this kind of dad, just offering it as a suggestion to avoid a further strain, which yes, was caused by her initially. I do not intend on isolating my sons from their mother or preventing her from seeing them. But I also will not allow anything other than court-approved, supervised visits. FaceTime and all that stuff, I will work with her to make sure she gets to talk with them. But there will be no weekends at mom's place until the court gives the okay. I'm not saying I believe she will try to run away with my kids, but I also never believed she would defraud my mother of $30,000. Y'all know this begging for a gender-reversed situation. Holy crap, people are actually calling him an a-hole. Opie is not the a-hole. Please, all you moms out there need to let go of your biases. I'm a mom, and all the YTAs sicken me. The mom didn't make a mistake or a one-time bad decision. She's not a good mom. She knowingly, ongoingly committed a major crime against her own mother-in-law. A crime that directly affected her kids. Her willingness to do this, with no remorse, shows her character. A good mom doesn't choose clothes, makeup, toys over her children. They just don't. Now for Opie's little edit. Thank you to everyone who commented, even the ones who called me a heartless a-hole for taking my sons away from their mother. This post has given me a lot of perspective, and I appreciate that. A couple things I want to clear up that I keep getting asked about that I wasn't able to include in my original post. 1. The area my sons and I live in is a smaller community. Not everyone knows everyone small, but close. The crime my ex committed was news here. It was in the paper. People know about it. I get weird looks when I'm out in public. People have stopped inviting my sons to birthday parties. I don't want my sons to be bullied and teased in school about their mother being a criminal. 2. I am not going to permanently alienate my sons from their mother. I will make sure they are able to talk and FaceTime with her whenever they want. I will be the one who makes the drive back in order for them to see her, until she is able to make arrangements to allow her to do so. I will continue to work with my ex to make sure she is included in things like birthdays and holidays. 3. I know my sons and I will all need therapy from this. There is not good mental health help available where my previous job is. My new job offers on-site childcare, and I will have access to counseling and therapy for myself and my sons that we would not have access to without moving. The schools near my new job are head and shoulders above the ones near my previous job. 4. If my ex gets her life back on track and is able to move closer to us, I'm all for it. If she does the things she needs to do in order to petition for shared custody, I don't intend on fighting her for that. But until she does that, I will not allow her anything more than the supervised visits ruled by the court. I will also not ask for any of the court-ordered child support. We won't need it. 5. To all the people who screamed, "But she's their mother." Yes, and she always will be. And I remind my sons daily that their mom loves them very much, and that she wishes she can be with them like before. I am angry and resentful of my wife, but I work very, very hard to not let any of those feelings impact my sons and their relationship with their mom. Now for the update. I got a lot of people asking for an update on the situation, and since a few things have changed, I figured I would go for it. I did end up taking the new job and moved with my sons. We have been settling into our new lives quite nicely over the last month, and things have been going really well. My sons love the new house. They have made friends with some other kids their age in the neighborhood. My job has been going really well, and I really couldn't have hoped for things to go better than they have. I got both of my sons into a great therapy program, and the three of us have also been doing counseling sessions together. My boys have been adjusting amazingly well, and I'm so happy and proud of how they've handled this. We've also made 2 trips back to see their mother, since she is still in the process of figuring out what she will be allowed to do in relation to her probation. We've also been doing many video calls a week with her. My sons still don't understand why their mom isn't here with us, but they do seem to grasp that this is going to be their new normal. In comparison with how well myself and my sons are adjusting, my ex is the complete opposite. She is still very angry with me and thinks I'm a complete a-hole. She's frustrated with the process of going through the courts to be allowed to move. She's frustrated that I'm not willing to drive our sons back to see her as often as she'd like. She feels she's being marginalized in their lives and that I am pulling them away from her. When she was complaining about all of this during our last visit, I reminded her that all of those things are consequences of her own actions, and she blew up at me by saying I am kicking her when she's already down, And I didn't need to take her sons away from her. I told her how well our sons are doing and how happy they are, and she should be proud of how strong and resilient they've been. She then started begging me to please move back so that she can be closer, because she's not sure the courts will allow her to move and the process is taking too long. I told her that wasn't going to happen, but if there is anything I can do with the court process, that I would be willing to help if I can. I reminded her that I haven't said anything about her not paying the court-ordered child support, but that our boys seem to be in a much better place already, and I'm not going to take that away from them. Every time we have a video call with her, as soon as she says goodbye to our sons, she starts asking me to consider moving back home. I tell her every time that it is not happening. I'm not a robot, and I do feel bad to see her so desperate and distraught. But when I look at my sons playing and laughing with their new friends, I know I've done the right thing no matter the cost to my ex. Now, for some closing comments before we move on to the next story. I reminded her that I haven't said anything about her not paying the court-ordered child support. How did she end up on the hook for paying child support given her status? It's a token amount based on her income. With my higher salary, I don't need her help to provide for our kids, but she hasn't made an effort to pay anything yet either. She's going to blame you when they take her tax refund. Lol. She already blames me for a lot of things. We'll just add that one to the list. Just want to piggyback and say, if she's not making an effort to pay child support in any way, likely no court would give her partial custody anyways. She's not showing she can support kids in any minimal capacity. Also, my father raised my sister and I alone, but courts ruled for 50-50 custody because you can't separate kids from their mother, BS. Both moms and dads can be incapable of being a parent. Her fraud history and subsequent emotional breakdown, as it seems, definitely puts her in the category of not being responsible enough for custody's sake. Keep up the good work. You sound like a great father. Did you check the kids' credit? Yes, many times over. They're clean. I would at least every 6 months, if she has their SS numbers. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not giving my parents their son back? When I, 26 male, was 20 years old, my mom and dad had a 1-year-old son, Eddie. They were struggling in their marriage and had been for years. They thought having another baby would magically fix things, but they were wrong, as it just caused more problems and strained their finances. They were in over their heads and decided to give Eddie up for adoption. I begged them not to, but they had made up their minds. Social workers asked other family members if anyone would like to take Eddie. Both my older brothers refused, and my grandparents were too old, so I took my brother in. This royally annoyed my parents, and I was threatened with disownment, but I didn't care, as I already had a place of my own with an ex at the time. My folks lost their paternal rights, and I legally adopted my brother, and I love him so much and was proud to be his daddy. My brothers didn't approve of me adopting him, but I didn't care, as they had never met him, even when he was still with my parents. My grandparents helped me out a lot and were great. Unfortunately, they have both passed since then and left me what money they had left to raise my bro. My folks and siblings were pissed, but my aunt and uncles didn't care and thought it was best. At family events over the years, my folks would be uncomfortable when I'd show up with Eddie. But within the last year, they had seemed to warm up a tad, and I figured they themselves wanted to act more like grandparents, as he is legally my son. During the last few months, however, I've noticed my parents and brothers try and talk to Eddie on their own about if he knows who his mommy and daddy is. He says I'm daddy, and usually I walk in and scold them before the conversation can go much further than that. I've yet to tell him the truth, and I know I have to one day, but I don't think now is the right time. And even if it was, I should be the one to tell him. The other day, I caught my mom trying to talk to Eddie about this again when she was visiting me, Ed, and my current partner. I asked my best friend to take Eddie out for a bit, where me and my mom got into an argument. She thinks I'm being a terrible parent, and that it's time she and my dad take Eddie back. I told her that there is no way I'm letting that happen, so I kicked her out. Now, my parents are threatening to sue for custody, and my brothers agree, while aunts and uncles say they support me no matter what. So, am I the a-hole? Now, for the top comments. Not the a-hole. He's legally your son, and you're the best for him. I would start reconsidering having your parents over. Also, start considering, maybe consulting with professionals, the best way to handle questions he might start to ask within the next few years, either because your parents say something or in general. This. Maybe talk to a therapist or child psychologist on how it's best to cover this subject. From the post, he's around 7. Seems like someone is going to tell him sooner rather than later, and it's best coming from you, I assume. Might be worth having some advice on how to navigate this. As for my judgment on this, I have no doubt you are his daddy, and what is best for him then, now, and in the future. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Why are these people still in your life? Your son is not an accessory that they can pick up and drop off whenever they feel like it. The only way they would be worthy of taking in Eddie would be if they loved him and cared about his best interest. But if they loved him and cared about his best interest, then they wouldn't be trying to rip him away from the only father he has ever known. That would be so unbelievably confusing for him. Plus, let's face it, it probably wouldn't stick. Also, if they were good parents, they wouldn't be trying to do this to you, their son. You did something so incredibly mature and caring 6 years ago. I don't know why your brothers also suck so much, but clearly you should keep your aunts and uncles and ditch the rest of them. I don't think it's a coincidence that it's about time we take our son back as soon as the grandparents died and left the inheritance to the kid they abandoned. They don't want the kid, they want the kid's piggy bank. Edit. Whoa, I expected a few replies at least, not this many. I have decided that I'm going to tell him tomorrow. Have a me and him day and explain it the best I can and answer what I can. Edit 2. Okay, so I told him. It's half term here in the UK, so he didn't have school. Around lunchtime, I took him to get his favorite food. We then went for a walk in the park talking about family and stuff. Eventually, we sat down, and I told him about how I adopted him, but I'm still daddy, and that I still loved him. But then I explained how I came to look after him. It's fair to say he didn't understand some things and has been a bit quieter than usual, but he cuddled up to me while I was watching a film I loved when I was a kid and said, "I love you, Daddy," when I put him to bed. I'm feeling better, and I hope he does too. To say it's been an emotional day is an understatement. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe.